My guest today is Paul Gowda, owner and founder of powwows.com, the leading online community celebrating Native American arts and culture. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yes, for sure. Before we get into what you do, could you tell us who is Paul?
Yeah, thanks. So, I live in Lexington, South Carolina, and most importantly, I am a husband and a father. My daughter just turned 20 last week, and been married since 1996, so quite a while. Um, it, Back at the same time, the year we got married, I started playing around with web pages and building HTML sites. Just playing with that whole thing, and out of that, years later, became a company and an online community that really has been an amazing thing to see develop and thrive. But yeah, and also we're huge Disney fans and travel. We've really prioritized our life to do a lot of traveling. So we've been fortunate to take a lot of really cool trips, and that's kind of why we do what we do.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I see where it said in your description that you and your family went to Disney
Yeah,
42 times. That's
yeah. My
amazing.
that was my daughter's goal when we started going. We took her for the first time. She was about 4.5 years old, and somewhere along the way, we started going more regularly. And then she came up with a goal before she graduated high school. She wanted to go at least 40 times. So we hit that goal for her. And,
That's
and now she
amazing.
works there. So I guess it all worked out.
Yeah, well, that is wonderful. That's amazing. All right. So, um, family is obviously important to you. How have you been able to mesh your business life, your entrepreneurship with your family life?
You know, it's a challenge, and I don't know that I always did it well. I think at times I probably prioritized the wrong thing at the wrong time. But I mean, having family support over the years was really important, and they were understanding. I can think back to thinking about Disney trips. I remember one time we had a major issue on the website, and I can remember I didn't know how big of a problem it was, and I was like, we were at Disney. I was like, y'all just go downstairs and wait for me in the lobby. I'll be right there. And I had to finally call them. It's like it's going to be a while, and we had a major issue. So I mean, things like that happen. But
Hmm.
what I tried to do, and I was working a full-time job for most of that time, in addition to doing Powells.com. So it was a tough struggle of finding time to spend, how to prioritize family and how to prioritize the business. So it was lots of late nights and weekend work, and working on my lunch hour from the full-time job, and things like that. It was a struggle, but
Yes.
it was something that we had to continue having conversations about, and making sure that everybody kind of understood that. And and when I did have business time, and when I did like set aside that time, it was that everybody knew, hey, I need a couple hours to do this, and then we can do other stuff. But it was hard. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Sorry, I had to mute my thing because a helicopter just passed by. Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing that. It never is perfect when you're trying to balance, and in your case, you were juggling three things: work,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, and family. So yeah, that's really good. You still got to go to Disney with your daughter,
Right.
and that is important. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So why did you start Powwows? And tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was never meant. I didn't think it would be a business. It wasn't something I created saying, like so many people do now. Like, hey, let's start a YouTube channel, or hey, let's start this um, shop or whatever. Let's try to sell things online. It was back in 1996. I don't think people really knew that online businesses were a thing. It was really just I liked playing and tinkering on the computer, and so when the web started coming out, I wanted to see if I could build web pages. So I built web pages about things I knew. And at the time, I was just starting to get into, and people were taking me to my first powwows and teaching me all that, and learning about the regalia and the songs and all that. So I built pages about that. It was like my story of just, hey, I'm learning about this. This is really cool. Check this out. At the same time, I also built a website about Star Wars toys. You can see I've got my mask
Mm-hmm.
there, and that right there is a signed picture of Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and Mark Hamill. So yeah, I'm still a big Star Wars fan, and that was the other. I built that page, but that was before Disney bought Star Wars, and there weren't any prequels, and there weren't any more movies. So I mean, that one didn't go anywhere. The other one took off, and people started coming, and they wanted to interact with each other. So we started a forum, and it started growing from there. And it really wasn't until we started having bills, and I started having to pay for things. I'm like, hey, maybe I should figure out a way to, at least break even. And it was probably 10 or 15 years before we really started seeing profit and started thinking, well, this could be something more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and never dreamed that, well, it was a dream, but I never thought it would be a reality that I could actually leave my job and go full time. I was fortunate enough to be in a job. I worked for state government so that I did have a pension. And after I worked so many years, I could leave and continue to be paid. In retirement. So that kind of helped make that transition, and now I do it full time. So it's just been amazing.
Yeah, that is. So so what is this community and how were you able to attract that community? Tell us
Yeah.
about it, like, help us connect with it.
Sure. In the early days, it was just powwow dancers and powwow singers and people, that were actual participants. And we built a forum, but this was back before Facebook groups and social media. So we built this forum, and people would come and interact, and we'd have, conversations about how to do different crafts, or what the history of this was. And so it was very, very specific on powwow dancers. As social media emerged and we started growing, we really started seeing that other people outside, whether it was people with native heritage or not, but people wanted to know more about powwows. So that's when we kind of transitioned, and it was a slow transition. It wasn't like an overnight thing, but we started putting up more content of explaining things for people who were the first time here, and sharing that type of articles. And now with our Facebook page has over 1 million followers, we know that we're much bigger than just a native population. We attract people all over the world. So
Mm-hmm.
now our community is all about helping raise awareness, helping get more attention on certain things, helping businesses see more customers, helping powwow see more visitors. So that's what we hope to do now, is just take our following and help shine spotlights on different things, and really help elevate everyone together.
Right, right. Yeah, sounds exciting. It's funny, in 1990, I started a website,
Yeah.
something similar.
Yeah.
It was just fun for me, though.
Right, right.
Yeah, this is amazing. I wanted to talk about your fears when you realized this was not just, a part-time hobby for you.
Yeah. Um, it. I can remember there were lots of things that as you start having bills and having expenses. The first time we started seeing enough traffic that we had to do more than just a $20 a month hosting plan. We actually had to start getting dedicated servers and those kind of things. You start seeing big bills, and so you know it was tough, and it was a very fearful thing of not knowing if we could cover expenses month to month. And then we started doing live streaming and started traveling to powwows, and I didn't know, like, if another powwow would call us, and it was a lot of unknowns. That was probably the biggest fear in the beginning, in the first maybe decade, is just not knowing if this thing was sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we started making it more of a job and more of a part of us, then it was like, okay, well, the fear is, how do I balance this, and how do I make sure that if we start transitioning more into this being more of what we do, can I continue to pay the bills, right? And when I
Right.
made that jump, even though I retired and had the pension, it's still like, and still my fear now is, with me being full time, is that the best decision for the company, right? Do I bring enough value to justify me being full time? And that was a fear for, leading up to that, and still that first year or so, it's like, oh my gosh, and should I have stayed in my job and just hired somebody else to do things, or was there a better investment in the company? I hope that ultimately I did make the right decision. But yeah, I mean, there's always fears about whether or not you're going to be able to continue and do what you had done before.
Right. So even at this stage where you're somewhat successful, I mean, you are successful, you're doing it and people are attracted to what you have to offer, you are still fearful, and that's probably common to most entrepreneur that this may not have been the right decision. I
Yeah.
mean, wow. Okay.
Well, and with the things have changed. We saw back in the the early 2000s as social media has really started coming in. I mean, the landscape changes so fast, and like we had our forum, and we were completely everything we did was based on that forum. All of our traffic, all of our interactions, all of our revenue was based on that forum. And when people started going to social media, I mean, that was a huge shift for us, and we lost a lot of traffic, and we had to really adjust. Now with the changing SEO and AI and all this, and over the years how organic reach has changed on social media. I mean, there's always the unknown, right? And
Yes.
like so many people that were hit with like helpful content and all these core updates, when we've seen swings in our SEO traffic, and that kind of stuff is scary, and you just don't know, as you become dependent on Google sending you traffic or Facebook sending you traffic. It's like if they change the rules, whew, um,
Yeah.
and, my we have a podcast at powells.com, and Facebook decided a few years ago, they're like, hey, we're gonna get into podcasting, and it was wonderful. I mean, this is an easy example, right, of how things change so fast. We were getting 15 to 20,000 downloads on Facebook of our podcast every episode. And I was like, this is great. This
Hmm.
is awesome. And then overnight Facebook said, bah, we're going to kill that. And they
Yeah.
got rid of the entire nothing. There was nothing left of podcasting on Facebook, and
Yeah.
all of those downloads went away overnight. And so, we had sponsorships, and we had, deals with different companies to advertise on that platform. And all of that was just gone overnight. So, you know, these, these companies, Google, Facebook, uh, whoever else, they're dependent on, they look out for themselves and their investors, not necessarily us as a small business. So it's really scary. And I went to a Meta conference back in May, and that was one of the topics. Is these platforms invited us to build our businesses on them, but they
Hmm.
changed the rules, and it's kind of scary for us. And so that was, we met with some legislators, and that was a conversation a lot of us had. And we've been fortunate. We haven't been hit as bad with some of these SEO updates, but I know so many entrepreneurs out there have gotten hit, and are having to change their entire business model. So yeah, this kind of stuff is scary. You never know what's going to happen the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember when Facebook jumped on the podcast bandwagon. And
Hmm.
that's why I believe that community is so important. And it's that connection you have with those people. And not everybody will follow you off,
Right.
but most will. Your core listeners, your core audience will follow you. And I guess that's one thing to take away from this conversation is that your audience from back then stayed with you, regardless of where you are, right?
Yes, and and I'm now one of the things I do now is I actually help people with this, but email has been one of the key pieces of that. And not many people think about email as part of their community, but our email subscribers are really the heart of our community, and that's kind of where we want our home base to be, is not our Facebook group, not our Facebook page. Even though those are huge platforms, we want, if you're going to really be part of our community, we want you on our email list, and that's where we're going to deliver the messaging and everything first. And these other places are just extras. So yeah, email and being able to talk directly to our subscribers is unbelievable, and that's really been the backbone of everything we do.
Right. Okay. All right. Now that we've touched on that, tell us what you do for your clients and
Yeah.
how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, and so that was great transition there.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I help people and help entrepreneurs figure out ways to develop community online and have that sense of community, have that sense of belonging, whether it's through social media or email. I do a Right now, most of my clients we're really focused on helping them level up their email and using automations and sequences to really segment their audience and deliver the right messaging to the right people to help sales, to help traffic or whatever. That's what I've been helping people do, is really figure out ways to use their email and to grow their email to be a vital part of their business.
Okay, and how can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'd love to help you if you're interested. PaulGuider.com is where I post all of that kind of information, and I do have a video where you can see what my favorite ways of growing email is, and that's paulguider.com/email tools, and then to show you how I've been able to grow my email list to over 100,000 subscribers, and use that as really the key and the heart of powwows.com.
Awesome, thank you. And we'll put those links in the show notes and so people could use them. All
Thanks.
right. Um, so I see this, you give me this idea. I'm stuck. How do I grow my following?
So one of the, and I'm actually I'm speaking at a conference next month, and so I've been working on this, and this is one of the things we're going to talk about is, if I had to start over, where would I go and how would I grow my list? There's a few things I would do, and I think the key thing with email marketing is not doing the worrying about what you're going to send out every week for these what we call broadcast messages or messages that goes to everybody. I think the more important thing is to figure out what information your subscribers are looking for. So, for example, if you are going back to my Disney World stuff, if you're a Disney travel agent, then you're going to have people that are looking for information for Disney World. You're going to have people looking for information for cruises. You're going to have people looking for information on maybe all inclusives, right? Those are different segments of your audience. So figure out how you could put something on your website to attract people to just your cruise information. So maybe you have a cruise packing list, or here are my 10 tips for first time cruisers. And then you build a whole series of emails based on that segment of audience. I think that is the most important place to start. Having an email opt-in that just says, hey, subscribe to my newsletter, that doesn't really help grow your list. So you need to
Hmm.
figure out what your segments are, how your audience breaks down, and give them something that applies to that group, and you'll see your email list grow. And I think that's really the best place to start. The second thing I would tell people to do is, my favorite tool right now is ConvertKit, and they have a recommendation engine, a recommendation platform, and it is helping people grow their list significantly. And it's creators recommending each other, and they have it all automated with their email opt-ins. It's really great. So if you're looking to grow your list, I highly recommend going over to ConvertKit and using that recommendation engine as well.
Mm, okay, thank you. I love those tips. And really, podcasters can use those tips as well to
Hmm.
grow their audience. Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, so what is Paul grateful for today?
Huh. I am so grateful that we are able to have this lifestyle we created of travel. Just this past weekend, I mean, I got back yesterday. We drove down to Florida to visit our daughter. Like I said, she works at Disney World, so we were able to go down for a couple of days. And she worked in the mornings, and so my wife and I would stay in the room and do our work because we can work from anywhere. So I'm really grateful that we had that kind of flexibility, and so we
Hmm.
were able to work in the morning, spend the evenings with her, and get to visit. And being flexible and having this kind of um, schedule or options to work from anywhere has really let us travel and go all over. Um, 2 weeks ago, we were in Alaska. Um, in March, we did a cruise from Honolulu to Vancouver. It's just amazing that we're able to do these trips, continue to work, and continue to do our business. So I'm really grateful for this lifestyle we've created.
Yeah, that is amazing. I appreciate that. All right. All right. So I'm going to let you go soon. I really appreciate you coming and talking to us today. I enjoyed the conversation, but I want to ask you, and specific to podcasters, how can a podcaster use giveaways to grow their podcasting business?
Yeah, I love doing giveaways. It's one of my favorite things. A quick, an easy tip I have for us podcasting especially is it's so hard to get listeners to come back to your website, right? That's the whole thing, is how do we get our listeners to come back? Offering them show notes and offering them links or whatever is good, But giveaways are so good. And here's one of the things I do is first, on powwows.com, it's the same URL for every giveaway we do. It's powwows.com/win. So it's really easy for me in a podcast to say, hey, you want to enter a giveaway? powwows.com/win. That's the first thing. Then I use a software called Viral Sweep, which lets me to create bonus codes. So in a podcast or in a live video, I'm able to say, hey, we're giving away this prize. If you guys on this podcast want extra entries that only people listening to this podcast get, here's a code. Maybe it's 6 digits or whatever, and I give them that code, and it's only, that code is only good in that podcast episode. Then they have a reason to go back to that episode. That has helped me with, again, like with our live streams, my weekly live show, podcasting. It really helps get people from those platforms back to the website. And then, of course, they subscribe to our email list, and then we can continue to talk with them and have them as part of our community.
Yeah, that is an awesome tip. I love it. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Paul Goddard, for coming and speaking to us today. Any parting shots?
If you're out there and you're stuck with email marketing or growing your community, I'd love to help and work with you. Um, Go over to paulgoddard.com. You can book a free discovery call. I'd love to help you. It's really been fun to see what we can help other entrepreneurs do and grow their business and their revenue by just doing a few simple things in email. So I'd love to work with you.
Awesome. I appreciate you, Paul.
Thank you.